Okay, so this vlog, you're just kind of getting to come along with me during a week here, which this was kind of like a chill week. This was my menstruation phase, and I was just feeling so off. I'm actually still feeling like I'm kind of like recovering, but this was just like a week in my life of just kind of like random things. This time we walked up to Camp Bede Billing, and this was like definitely a little trek up here, but if you're ever in Bede, I would highly suggest going to this place. It was a really cool experience. And I think that's one thing that I do really like about here in Bede is that there is obviously like the normal little town shops and stuff, but there is a couple of places that are like very unique. Like this place is definitely very unique, like more of like an experiential type vibe. And again, the sunsets here are just something that I haven't really seen in many other places besides like where I lived in Florida. The sunsets were like incredible there, and that's one thing that I do really miss is the sunsets. So I'm loving the sunsets here. And I said I was going to kind of answer the rest of the questions from one of my last few vlogs, which I basically answered all of them. Many of the questions are like, how are you traveling? Which I'm working online. I saved up a bunch of money to be able to kind of like afford to take time off. And then I'm teaching a couple of classes every week for like mindful movements, but my plan is to kind of transition away from teaching exercise and to move more into like life coaching. Just because I feel like through everything that I've been through in life, I've learned how to support myself. And I feel like I've also, because of my experience of, like how I mentioned last time about Eastern and Western medicine, like understanding that emotions need to be processed. And in order for us to be able to process emotions, we have to have a safe space. So I think it would be like the biggest privilege and honor to be able to support people holistically. And I'm not saying anything bad about therapists, but one thing that I found that I was always frustrated with in therapy is that it was just kind of like revisiting the same problem over and over again, rather than allowing kind of like the pain to move through us and be validated on why the experience was so painful, but then give them the space to be able to kind of like talk through why it affected that person, etc. And that's one thing that I also see a downfall about here in India, which again, this is not in any like disrespectful way, but I did feel like in some parts of like my yoga programs, I saw sometimes like spiritual bypassing, trying to like say that, you know, well, this was your karmic debt and like you know, your soul chose this. And while I don't disagree with that, I think that it almost hinders you in being able to like fully integrate whatever lesson you're meant to learn. So I feel like I have parts that I like want to take from both sides and be able to support people in. So that's kind of my like goal, is to transition more into that. And then a lot of the messages on my last few vlogs have been, obviously I spoke about India in more of a general sense, which on social media, India is portrayed in such a negative aspect. And it is kind of interesting to me that it's a lot of Indians that actually talk bad about India, which is kind of baffling to me. But I mean, I guess when you're like in a problem, you're so zoomed in that you don't see outside of it. But I still will forever like, yes, India has its downfalls, and people have questioned like, why do you not go to other places? And I do have plans to go to other places, but for some reason I think if you follow intuition of like where you feel called to, there's something there for you. And India is definitely one of those places that like called my soul and will forever hold a huge part of my heart and my healing. But I will never really have anything negative to say about India. And I think that comes with saying that there's pros and cons to everything. But I just have a lot of respect for India, regardless on if there's anything wrong. But that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, and I got to go up to like the top mountain and watch where the paragliders take off at. And oh my gosh, this was such a cool experience. I still feel a little nervous to actually go paragliding, but to be able to like watch it from the top mountain, it's just a surreal thing. Like to be able to see this in person is just, I don't know, it's just a very humbling, like when you're around nature so big, I feel like that's just so good for your soul. But I am thoroughly loving my time here in Bede and soaking it all up, because I mean, like, look at this. How could you not love this? But that's all I have for this week, and I'm so excited. Next week I'm going on a little trip, so I'm super excited to share those clips from that. Thanks for watching. See you next week.